Thank you everyone for coming. Usually we have to like quiet everyone down. You guys are quiet. Thanks for that. I hope Columbia's security didn't give you guys too much trouble. Can we also just go around saying which schools we're from? Can you raise your hand if you're from Fordham? Sweet, sweet. NYU? Anyone? Okay. Columbia? Okay. Awesome. So, on the posters, we wrote down that Dan Tunnell was the CEO of Morning Brew. This is not true, but he's here. Everyone give a round of applause.
Oh, these are my slides? Do I control them like this? Oh, great. Columbia, what the fuck is going on, everybody? Make some noise for yourself. Hello, Sharks. It's a pleasure to be here and also not be the CEO of Morning Brew. I'm sure a lot of you are very disappointed. Whoever thought that they would give me that kind of control of the company is hilarious. Hello, guys. You're all expelled. All right. So, yeah, let's get into it then. It's an honor to be speaking here at Columbia University, brought to you by the Columbia Organization of Rising Entrepreneurs. Everybody, yeah? It's an honor to be here. There you guys are. I was really excited to speak here with you guys at the Columbia Organization of Rising Entrepreneurs, which, by the way, my dad was very quick to remind me does not count as Columbia University itself. I can only assume the actual university has no idea this is happening, and if they did, this would most certainly be shut down like it is right now. But that's okay, because I've already illegally printed out a doctorate degree and hung it above my toilet at home, everybody. So, it's also great to know that unlike Columbia's admissions, this event was open to kids at Fordham and NYU. I want to give a shout out to our Rams and Violets. Make some noise, everybody, if you're representing those schools. Hell yeah. You know, they say a parent always has a favorite child. and today isn't any different. So I want to take this moment and say, Fordham, out of these 3 schools, I have always liked you the best. Are there any Fordham students here today? Yes, the attractive ones. Fordham, you are head and shoulders above the rest. Nestled in the heart of the Bronx, your university boasts one of the most beautiful spots in New York City with Rose Hill campus and offers a premier education that has brought the world incredible academics and artists.
This is a sign.
Ooh.
Turn up.
That's true.
Wrong.
This is a very high-tech operation you guys have. I didn't realize that the mic was as old as this lecture hall. Are you still good, Michael? Yeah? All right. Michael, everybody. All right, cool. So where was I? Oh yes, Fordham, I love you. As for NYU, you suck. There we go. What can I say, NYU, other than you are a bunch of money-stuffed Nepo swine who burn your parents' cash on pointless trap beat-making classes taught remotely by Rick Rubin on a Skype call. NYU, you enrage me. And if your alumni would stop stealing all the acting roles that I auditioned for, thank you. Oh, here we go. This is very TikToker of me. Meanwhile, as for Columbia, I'm not sure if your school is an Ivy or not, but you act like you are, and I get the feeling that bothers the other Ivies. I was just talking to Cornell last night, and they say you guys act weird around girls at parties. Of course, I'm kidding. We all know we're better than Cornell in this room today. Anyway, when the Columbia Organization of Rising Entrepreneurs asked me to come speak, I was flattered. I've been a core fan since I was a young boy. I was particularly flattered when, at the beginning of this week, I got a message in my inbox from Michael, who had a fun notice for me, saying, "Bad news, turnout." It's always great for an attention whore like me to get a message saying that all the people who have gathered to see you do not want to go. But unfortunately, we got a really great showing today, and you know, usually these attendance problems happen to my being too famous, too attractive, or most likely both. That happens all the time, guys. Nevertheless, we're all here under the same conditions. You are not being paid to be here. I'm not being paid to be here. Which is confusing, right? I mean, this is Columbia, after all. With an endowment of $14.8 billion, you should have the money, not only to pay all of us for coming here, but also to finance the Blade helicopter I specifically asked to pick me up and bring me here today. I'm assuming the money is instead going to some other responsible place where universities like to burn their cash, such as an 8th rock climbing gym at Vital, or more important people to speak to your students at graduation. Spoiler alert, it will be Neil deGrasse Tyson this year, everybody. Now, it means a lot that you would all come out on a Friday afternoon, dressed to the nines, like me. When I was in college back in 2016, there was always some girl who would wear Adidas slides to class and hit a vape pod. That was a flavor called Cherry Suicide. I personally never had a problem with it because she was where all the good Molly came from. But today, my friends, is an important day. It's one of the last Fridays before break. So all of you college kids get your last chance to underage drink in dorms before going back home to underage drink in your cool parents' basement. I'm sure I'll be seeing some of you swerving on the icy roads of the Mass Turnpike soon enough. That resonated for one man. Today is also one of your last chances to learn something before break and before finals start. And I'm sure a lot of you at this point are wondering, who am I and what wisdom could this 14-year-old boy possibly have for all of you college students? Now, before telling you who I am, I will start by telling you who I am not, Columbia Organization of Rising Entrepreneurs. I am not a person who went to Columbia. I am not organized. I am certainly not rising, and I am definitely not an entrepreneur. However, I do happen to run a YouTube channel called Good Work that some of you may have seen or be familiar with. Which does mean that I am no more than a social media micro-celebrity who is praying to one day have a career as half as successful as the Hawk Tuah girl. But it does not look like that is going to happen. If my little YouTube channel doesn't hit 1 million subscribers within the next year, I will unfortunately have no choice but to spit on that thing. Thank you to those who understood what I was talking about. However, despite my litany of shortcomings and 3 counts of committing wire fraud, Columbia University, you all brought me here today because I host a YouTube show where I try to bring together the worlds of business, the internet, comedy, tech, and other places where young men go to become radicalized. It will shock none of you to learn that our audience is very dedicated to the show, which does mean that I have gotten some degree of recognition from having a YouTube channel. I will admit it does come with its benefits. I often do big things with big names in business and media. Mark Cuban, and this is true, once told me at a cocktail party that I have dainty hands. So that's what this career can get you guys. Bumble's Whitney Wolf Herd once tripped over me at the New York Marathon. My girlfriend recently left me for Moon Day. All of these things are possible with internet celebrity. And all this recognition means that I, just like any entrepreneur, have somehow convinced myself that I am a big motherfucking deal who deserves people's attention. But it wasn't always like this for me. In fact, many years ago, I was your average college student, anxious about what I was going to do, unsure of my future, and constantly blowing my parents' cash on sports gambling apps that I'm horribly addicted to. If I see a DraftKings ad to this day, I start to salivate. In fact, if Columbia did try to pay me tonight, that money would immediately vanish from my bank account and get sucked into the black anus-shaped wormhole of FanDuel because the Patriots apparently refuse to win a single game for as long as I shall live. Thank you again to the one man from Massachusetts in this room. Growing up, it was my dream to work in late-night television. That's all I wanted to do. I wanted to host my own late-night comedy show. That was my dream. So I went to college, and I did all of the things that I thought would make that dream possible. I hosted a little comedy television show. I wrote for our university's satirical newspaper. I hosted a DJ radio show, and I was the editor for our school's media outlet, for our school's journalism website. Pretty much I did everything to make sure that both employers and women were repelled by me. I never ended up working in late night, and this is true. For every single year of college, I applied to a late night internship, and I never got one. To every single show I applied, I never got a late night internship. But a few months after graduating, which I graduated in 2020, before a lot of you were born, I graduated and I was forwarded information about this sketchy coffee company called Morning Brew. Now at the time, I thought that Morning Brew was a front. It was like a startup. I had no idea what Morning Brew was. I thought it was a front for some elaborate ketamine dealing operation, and to be frank, it could still be that. I'm not quite sure. But they were looking to hire at the time a podcaster to host a daily show style business show that was going to be like blending the worlds of comedy and business. So I sent in a video that I made in my college apartment. A few months later, I got a call from the founder of Morning Brew, Alex Lieberman, who, and this is true, FaceTimed me while shirtless and covered in paint because he was road painting in his front yard. And look, the pandemic made us all a little weird, all right? So that was my introduction to this company. So after that, I got hired by Morning Brew to start their entire video operations. And at that moment, I became what's known in the business as a creator, which wasn't a job that even existed when I was in college, right? So what started as a podcasting gig was parlayed into me beginning Morning Brew's entire video content. It was just me on my own. I was uploading their first TikToks and Instagram Reels, often, and this is true, inside of my parents' garage, just me in a ring light. I'm sure the neighbors were watching me every day, just wondering when the right time to call the police would be. And it was a lonely job. I worked remotely. I didn't have a lot of coworkers to work with. I would spend hours each day locked away in my parents' garage, like some kind of troll, just spending hours editing videos, posting them, reading comments. It didn't become weird for me to begin and then end a workday without talking to a single person. And I did this for months, essentially. And I was happy doing it, which is a weird thing. I kind of had this natural instinct to work on my own, and I liked this job a lot, right? And then after a few months of doing that, our following started to grow. It was working, right? And so Morning Brew came up to me, and they said, Dan, after all the success that we have had on TikTok and Instagram, we want to up the ante, right? We want to give you your own show, which is my dream. And then they said, it's going to be on YouTube. And I thought, close enough. They basically said, you can do whatever you want on it, you can call it whatever you want, you can wear whatever you want, and I said trench coat. I was so excited about this possibility of making something new, making something on my own, that I immediately went to a notebook and I started to write down ideas, right? I was so excited to get started on it. But this weird thing happened where after months of making stuff, I didn't have any ideas. I had nothing. I mean, like hours went by and I was just staring at a page and I had nothing. So hours turned into days, days turned into weeks, weeks into months. And I still had nothing. Not only did I have no ideas, I started to think that because I had no ideas, that I was the wrong person for the job, right? I started to lose faith in myself and in this entire process. And when I tell you I had no good ideas, I mean, I literally had 0 good ideas. I checked this recently. At one point in my notes app, I had a page that just said, Upside Down Podcast. Another said Renaissance themed dating show, and there was another page that just said pickle on it. Those were the ideas I was coming to my company with. So for 3 months I was writing down gold like that, trying to find something that worked, and it never once crossed my mind in that entire 3-month period to ask anybody else for help, right? Then one day, I remember, there was one guy who worked at Morning Brew that was pretty funny that I got along with. His name's Henry Stockwell, and he was working as a copywriter at Morning Brew. And when I remember that, I had my first good idea in 3 months, and I decided to ask Henry for help, right? I asked him to help me build whatever the hell this channel was going to be. I still didn't have any idea for it. So he joined, and within days of working with this guy, we had this video called What Do Consultants Actually Do? Which I still don't know the answer to. But that was our first video, and we posted it, and in a few weeks it got 500,000 views, and all of a sudden we had something, right? And I don't really check analytics too often, but we started with about 0 subscribers, and I think now we're somewhere around like 18 billion or something. And we're growing. I mean, clearly with Henry and with the team, we are now grown, right? So why am I telling you all of this right now? Well, to me, entrepreneurs are to business what creators are to media. They are flashy buzzwords that cause people you're hitting on at bars to tase you with first whisper. Each of these words give the image of someone that does everything, right? Like a Swiss Army knife type person. And this image of like an all-in-one package, in my mind, fits pretty nicely into our world today, which is very focused on achievement, promotion, and celebration of an individual, right? We have every year Forbes telling us that there are only 30 entrepreneurs under the age of 30 that mean anything. Even though whenever I check their website, there's like 700 people that they list on it. And I'm sure that some are in this room right now. In my experience, the best things that I have ever made have come as a result of getting out of my comfort zone and surrounding myself with people, right? And the same can be said for the best moments in my life, whether that be with friends, family, colleagues, especially Fordham alumni. Go Rams. It could be a little louder next time.
Whoa!
Thank you. Today, Good Work, the channel that I run, is possible because of people like Henry Stockwell and someone we recently hired named Jack Stebbins, who's doing a great job. In college, some of my favorite things that I ever made were with my best friend at the time, a guy named Chris Cheshire. I would never have heard about Morning Brew if the opportunity was never forwarded to me by my mentor at the time, a woman named Callie Schweitzer. I would have never started comedy or performing if my best friend Evan Canny in high school never told me to like audition for something. And I wouldn't have stuck with it if my high school teacher, Stephanie Noble, never told me that I was like good at it, right? So I'm saying this because I rely on others so much more than it might seem. In fact, this entire speech was actually written with Henry and Jack, right? A lot of this is collaboration, a lot more than it might seem. The point is, today we have to make an effort to interact and be around people. It's so easy to like sit and stare at a screen inside. I know because I've spent entire days doing that. And I'm here to say that despite all of the technology that encourages us to live in our own world, I encourage everybody here today to try your hardest to resist that. Move your feet. If you're an entrepreneur and you want to build, then start by being around people. See what problems need solving rather than the problems you think need solving. Ask people, right? I guarantee you it will be worth it. So I'm not telling you this because I'm particularly wise or successful. Despite looking like a backup cable news weatherman from the 1940s, I am a 26-year-old guy who lives in Brooklyn, which is a group of people that anthropologists have defined as the fucking worst. And as someone in their mid-20s, I can't tell you all how to live, how to progress in your career, or what age I grew too old to use my parents' health care. But what I can tell you is that I'm proud of a lot of the stuff that I made. Some people seem to think it's kind of good. I don't know. Except for the one guy who told me once, quote, "I love your videos, but I have to watch them with headphones on because my girlfriend finds your voice annoying." So I think I've been able to build something, not because of my inclination to go about it alone or to think I have the best idea and just follow that. I've been able to make something that I think is worthwhile in spite of all of that. And I'm here today because I believe that everybody in here can as well. And I encourage you to do that. The bad part is that I think we need reminders of that sometimes. I certainly do. The good part is that I don't think it's beyond any of us. So, I encourage everyone here at the Columbia Organization for Entrepreneur, or whatever it is, to go out, collaborate with people, talk with people, make friends, and build that way. Do not isolate yourself, no matter how tempted you might be, It'll be so much more fun if you don't. So thank you guys. I appreciate you all. Thank you, Michael, for setting us all up.
Okay, we have one working microphone.
We have one single microphone, everybody.
We have 2 chairs.
Go over here.
Yeah. We might just pass around the microphone because you have to be heard for this recording that we put together at very end. Yeah, you can pass this around. Usually we prepare a few questions, but I feel like we're going to send around. So just going to do the first one to you, from your journalist. Can you tell us your name?
Yeah, of course. Thank you. My name is Manuel. I'm from Germany originally, and I'm doing a master's at Columbia Graduate School of Journalism. Your videos are amazing. I love that you're doing actual journalism and not all the other garbage that we see on YouTube and TikTok and go. So my question is, if you want to start your own thing in the media world, and if you want to do journalism on social media, what would you recommend someone like that? And maybe it's me. Thank you.
Actually, I'll stand up. Yeah.
So a lot of this channel, I kind of see it as a combination of 50 different things that I really like. One of those was late night, but there are a lot of elements of late night that I really started to hate, because to me a lot of the shows just started to like blend together and be the same product. And there were a lot of local news stations that would post videos that would get maybe 500 views on YouTube, and the editing would be really bad on it. And those are my favorite videos, because that's hilarious that people are using like iMovie transitions in the year of our Lord 2024. So a lot of the channel came to be because, I mean, the first video that we did, what do consultants actually do, that happened because in college, a lot of my friends who were the smartest kids and the most driven kids, all of them wanted to be consultants. And I was like, what is this job? Like, what is this magic job? And I found out that they get paid 6 figures at the age of like 24. And I was like, oh, that's why we're all in it, right? So I had this rant that I wanted to go on. And I liked all these different formats, right? It also helped that I got hired by Morning Brew and they gave me a beat. I didn't cover business before I joined them, right? I was working in politics actually. And then they hired me. So finding the beat is really helpful because if you're kind of scatterbrained like me, it centers you. And then when you're in there, find a format and find something you're genuinely curious about. That was really what got me started with this channel specifically, is that they didn't give me a certain topic to cover. I'm not somebody who like grew up reading Bloomberg or like day trading. If I ever did day trade, that would be probably the worst financial decision I could make in my entire life. So instead, I chose the topics within the business news world that I found really interesting. Inevitably, one of those was going to be Zim. But for me, I think a lot of the reason why we get into journalism is because we're curious about specific topics we want to learn more. I mean, it's like we like writing essays. That's essentially what journalism is, right? You gather facts and interview people. So find the topics that you're naturally curious about, find the formats that you like, combine those, and then you have a show. And that was essentially what good work is. So I hope that was an answer. Yeah, of course.
In the blue first, here is the same person. Could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, appreciate it. Hi. Okay. My name is Ayman. I'm from France. I'm a graduate student here. My major doesn't matter. It's not relevant question. So I follow you like on social media, and I've seen like you have been having shows, like comedy shows and stuff. So congrats. What advice would you have for someone who wants to go into stand-up comedy? It's okay if you don't consider yourself a stand-up comedian, but
Great, thank you. I feel like I'm just ruining college students' lives by being like, yeah, it's stand-up comedy, everybody. So I started in stand-up because I got hired by Morning Brew before I lived in New York. I did some stand-up in college, but not a lot, because I was afraid to. And then when I moved to New York, I had this job of posting social media videos, and personally, I didn't think that I could ever call myself a comedian without performing it live, or doing a lot of the things that comedians in New York do, which might be like, I don't know, old school, but I also wanted to meet other comedians. Morning Brew was not gonna, I was the only comedy guy at Morning Brew, right? And the easiest way to meet comedians was going to open mics. So I went to, you know, as many open mics as I could when I first moved to New York. I did like 4 or 5 a week usually, which sounds like a lot, but it's not. Like outside of college, once work ends, you have a dangerous amount of free time. It's awesome. And so I would just like, there are open mics all over the city. So I just started going to those, and what I found was there's like a class of people, similar to being like freshman, sophomore, junior. It's like everybody starts at around the same time. You can find people that kind of start at the same time as you. Become friends with those people, because then you can all go to shows and bomb together, and then go get food after and be like, that was a crowd, that wasn't us. And then you get to grow with them. So a lot of the people that I started with a few years ago are now being booked on shows a lot more often, getting pretty cool deals off of it. So, and also, people always say like treat it like a job, and you know, that's pretty good advice. Write as much as you can. And also listen to comedy albums too. If you want to get good at stand-up, a lot of stand-up is joke writing. So if you listen to certain albums that you really like, comedians that you gravitate towards, you can almost start to hear joke structure, and then you know you start by imitating the people that you really like. I'm making this sound very nerdy. It's a cool, fun thing to do, guys. And then just start writing jokes on your own, and then go to open mics, rinse and repeat.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
What is your major, by the way?
Yeah. What kind of drugs do you deal?
I'm engineering.
That's fine. Why are you saying?
Relevant
You can
question.
tell us that it's engineering. That's like
Nowadays, not so much. I'm computer science, so I'm kind of ashamed. I mean, bro, like we can be homeless. Like, come on. This
You're
economy,
making so much money to not do stand-up.
not in this economy, bro.
That's actually a really good segue, the economy comment. I'm Sarah, I'm a senior at Warner. I study cognitive science. And I've worked in newsrooms. The 24-hour news cycle is not for me, but I've always known that like journalism is my passion. Unfortunately, in this economy, like the death of Woodward and Bernstein journalism makes it more difficult for early career journalists to really just like dive in head first. And so I've had to like rethink what my early career would look like, but I still very much want to stay in journalism, potentially in like long form audio content, so the podcasts. What advice do you have for someone who is going to have to find ways in sort of an extracurricular way in her early career to stay involved in journalism and get the attention of people who can provide opportunities for narrative content?
I also worked, my first job was at ABC News, and I can speak to the 24-hour news cycle thing. I was, my shift was midnight to 8 a.m., and that's what I did for 8 months in Washington, D.C. Do not recommend it. The weird thing about D.C. is that there's somebody going on a jog at any hour. You look outside and be 4 a.m. and you see some dude running like shirtless in February, thinking that he's going to be the president. So I don't recommend that. I left ABC because I didn't think that, well, one, because I had a job that was more comedy adjacent, but two, and I think a lot of journalists are seeing this right now, and I still try to figure it out in my head if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but a lot of media is becoming more striated, right? People are kind of finding their own little pockets and like reporters that they like and that they'll follow independently. And you're seeing a lot of reporters leave newsrooms and really, I don't know if anybody's looked at Don Lemon's Instagram recently. Your boy does. Now that he left CNN, he's posting all the time on there. And a lot of reporters have found really good careers off of building their own following and having this weird, like, pseudo-influencer journalist career where people follow you independently for the work that you do. My story is a little bit different, where I found Morning Brew, and then I've kind of been able to raise my platform while working at the company. So I think my best advice, I don't know how risk averse you are. I'm a very risk averse person, right? I'm a bitch. And what Morning Brew provided to me was the opportunity to work at a company. And I wanted that because I was like, dental, what? That's crazy. So my best advice that I think, and I tell a lot of kids who are journalism students now this, if you can find a smaller company to start, that's like in like even the startup phase, or maybe they have like a website or even reporters that you really like, join them and essentially say like, I will do like all of the multimedia reporting you want. You want to work in long form audio, I wanted to host late night. My first job was making TikToks. So inevitably the things you start off doing are not going to be the final product, but what I had to realize at least was you have to do a bit of grunt work that's like dream adjacent, and then eventually that will bring you. So, and the best place to do that is at a smaller newsroom that the beat is closer to what you want to do. So Morning Brew, I didn't really care that much about business initially, but it was comedy, and I was like, that's what I want to do. Sure, business, why not? And then I started making all their videos for them, which they didn't even do video when I joined. So that kind of gave me the opportunity to make a name for myself. And then once I worked at Morning Brew for 2 years and done really good work for them independently, they were like, hey, so what do you want to do? Because now that you're at this company, we're not like ABC. If I pitched my YouTube channel to ABC News, I would be executed. But Morning Brew was like, sure, go for it. So there is like, and I hate to say like you have to like earn your stripes or whatever, but like inevitably in any job, especially if you want to work at a company, there is that phase of like, yeah, sure, I'll do the work that other people don't want to do, as long as that is dream adjacent work. So I think that would be my best advice, is find like small news companies that you think are doing really good work and follow them. When you reach out to them, give examples of their reporting that you really like, and then when you're there, say, look all the things that I can do that you're not doing yet, and then provide that for them. Because there are those news companies out there. The problem is you might not know about them, because when you're in college, everybody's like, I'm gonna go work at ABC or like CNN. I did that too, and then I got there and I realized, oh, there's like barely any career trajectory here. You have to work like 10 years here before you get anything. So that'd be my advice for you. I hope that helps. Cool. Yeah, of course.
So really enthusiastic hand over here. Also, how are you on time? It's 4:46. A few more.
Do you want to speak? Okay. This is such a weird microphone. Thank you so much for coming out. You're a wonderful niche internet micro celebrity, and I appreciate it a ton. You mentioned getting. You mentioned getting rejected a ton of times from dream opportunities, and I'm wondering if you can speak to how you were resilient beyond that and didn't waver in terms of being into comedy that you knew you wanted to pursue. An additional question is, your LinkedIn says you went to USC. Is that where you got your ego from?
Jeez.
No, I mean, really, front to back, that entire question is awesome for my confidence. I will say this, a popular nickname for USC is University of Second Choices. And that was the case for me. I'm trying to remember the question in the insults. So what I will say, so Rejection, straight up. I got like every late night show I applied. I even like sent in a video to Late Night with Stephen Colbert or whatever. I sent them a video, like a 5-minute video, and I found the email address for like their intern person, I did not get a response, right? The only interview I ever got for late night, and this probably tells you how good of a candidate I was, the only interview I got was for James Corden's show. And I was in Slovakia at the time, different story, in the back of a golf cart, and they were like, hey, we can do this interview now. And at the time, I was drunk, and it was 11 p.m., and I was like, let's do it. And this kind of goes to show how dumb a lot of these interviews can be. No shade to James Corden, but they went, just to make sure that you're like the right candidate, we asked all of our candidates this, if you were a sandwich, what type of sandwich would you be? And I'm sitting there, hammered. I was like, oh, yeah, man, I'd be the peanut butter and jelly, probably. And I didn't get it. So, how I was feeling it was, there was legitimately a point where I graduated and I was like, I'm just not going to work at late night. Maybe I'll do journalism and do comedy outside of that, and then maybe go up to John Oliver and be like, hey, I will do whatever for you, man. And I will say, with comedy, you do need, and I still need it now, a lot of this weird assurance in yourself that it's going to work out, which isn't bad, especially at this age. I think everybody, you guys are Colombian, you should have that, because you're doing it already. You guys are at Fordham. But seriously, like, we're like, there is this kind of insistence that I will eventually do what I'm truly passionate about. And again, I hope I alluded to this earlier, like, this was not the dream, right? So it's a combination of like, I really want to do the things that I'm really passionate about, and then all the rejections kind of show you what that actually is. For me, I thought it was late night, and now I've realized it's just making comedy. And that was really helpful for me. There was a lot of rejection and a lot of painful telephone calls, but eventually you get to a point where it isn't where you thought you would be, but you end up realizing that it's like better than what you would have hoped for. So I hope that answers your question. And yes, I do get my arrogance from USC. Yeah, of course.
I really don't want to do this, but there are questions up here. Excuse me. Thanks. I'm going to have to go really loud. Here you go. Please.
Hi, my name is Maury. I'm from Columbia. I majored in computer science and philosophy. My question, two questions. First one is, I never watched on YouTube, but what I did see you is on TikTok, and I dabble in content as well. And remember, it was the consulting one with the trench coat and everything. What do you think about sort of interaction between short form and long form content, where now for you to take off on YouTube, it's way harder than start with the short form content, or let the short form be like an intro to the YouTube, to long form? What do you think the interactions between that, and for either a personal brand or a company want to grow an audience, grow a market, where should they start, or should they do both? And do you think long form is still essential? Second part of the question, it's a bit lighter. You mentioned how like now people follow reporters, right? It's sort of small like influencer-y reporter. And with Morning Brew, it's not just Morning Brew, you're not just on the back end, you're the face of it. Where now, like, your name is before Morning Brew on the presentation. So I want to ask, like, what's your future plan? Where do you see yourself in 5 years in terms of, if you come out of Morning Brew, people would still recognize you for you. So what's your plan for yourself? Do you want to start your own channel? What's the dream after, beyond Morning Brew?
That was like 5 questions. Like, can we keep them concise after this one? I'm only making fun of Mari because I know Mari. But yeah, the second one, answering that first was actually interesting. What are the next 5 years for you?
And I have, this is probably the worst answer, I have no idea what the next 5 years will look like. But I was doing comedy and videos on a much smaller scale about 5 years ago, right, in college. And I think that I'm doing pretty much the same thing right now, but at a larger scale. Where I have this YouTube channel now that has 16 billion subscribers, and I'm doing stand-up. Sometimes the shows sell well. And I think the best answer I can give is hopefully in 5 years, I'll be doing all the same things, because I really do like what I do. I will be doing all the same things I'm doing now, but at a larger scale, and hopefully better at stand-up too. So I think that's probably the best answer I can give for that. And I also have no idea what the media environment will look like in 5 years. And if I thought I did, I would probably be wrong. My job did not exist 5 years ago. This creator thing wasn't a thing 5 years ago. So I think being open-minded to the fact that, especially in media, things can change so quickly, that really helps you figure out where you're going to be in that span of time. For the first question, short form and long form. Something I've learned building this YouTube channel is we have a lot of followers for the Instagram and TikToks, right? Those are short videos, those are great. But those follow, at least from what we've seen, those followers aren't as sticky as as long form followers. What actually happened was Morning Brew launched a YouTube channel, and they had all kinds of videos on it, and they had my dumb comedy videos on it, and they had educational business videos on them too. And then people only ended up watching a few of the comedy videos. So then Morning Brew was like, fuck, all right, give them the channel. So then I took over the Morning Brew YouTube channel and called it good work and started doing all this. So it was actually something else before. And what we realized was we got some followers off of short form YouTube videos, and then when we posted long form videos, no one gave a shit. No one cared. So those don't translate, at least on YouTube, which I think is one of the most valuable platforms. You could argue that Twitch is too. But in terms of YouTube, short form does not always translate to long form, and long form is kind of the goal for a lot of people in the space. So I don't think that there's a one-to-one connection that you can bring people in from short form, and they're gonna watch everything you post on YouTube. I see a lot of people struggle with that. For YouTube, the main thing I said when making the video was, it doesn't have to look good, it just has to look interesting. And with our videos, I kind of like the fact that when you're scrolling through YouTube and you see a dude pop up in a trench coat jumping out of different places around New York City, you're like, what the fuck is this? And you kind of just want to keep watching. So that's what helped us stand out in long form, which I personally think is great for audience development and all the other corporate jargon that comes along with it. So, yeah.
Really concise. And I want to give questions to people who traveled really far. I know there are a lot of Columbia kids. Where are you from? Which school?
Go Rams!
Let's go. Introduce yourself, ask a question.
Great presentation. Thank you, Michael, for studying finance. Glad I'm there, glad I'm not here. But in any case, I want to ask, I know today, AI, pretty shit. For journalism purposes, it's not the level where you can replace human with it, but in your opinion, we're seeing Facebook, I should say Facebook, Meta, OpenAI, Google, they're all trying to make AI into something that will make video. Do you see in, let's say, the next 5 or 10 years, that essentially being a threat to interesting content instead of unique, such as what you're making?
And a follow-up question. How much of your current scripts are written with a little bit of AI?
All. So I kind of tried with, I am not an expert in artificial intelligence, so take everything I have to say with a grain of salt. We do try, when ChatGPT was introduced, I don't know if you guys know Kyla Scanlon at all, but she's a good friend of mine, and we were talking about how you want to try and incorporate as much of it as you can in your process if it is an interesting tool. And so that helps us a lot with research. Sometimes if there's a massive PDF that I need a summary of, I throw it into ChatGPT. Then I have to fact check it because it has been wrong sometimes. Sometimes it helps us make graphics too, but I have tried to resist the urge, maybe for my own mental health purposes, to let it write things like jokes or metaphors or weird and interesting lines, because I'm it's almost like the gym, I don't want that part of me to not get worked out, because that's like the most fun, you know? I know a lot of people who have turned over their entire content strategy operation over to AI, and they're like, it's easy to go do it. But for me, I make this because I think it's fun. And if AI ever took that aspect away from it, then I wouldn't even know what to do with my job, right? So, do I see it as a threat? Yeah, of course. Netflix has a bunch of videos on YouTube of comedy videos that have just been written by AI. But what I hope to do is at least create a product that is interesting enough where it kind of stands out. I kind of see like a weird parallel, like when you see a Mr. Beast video come out, and then there are like a million other people who make the exact same type of video. I'm like, this is AI where everything looks weird and glossy, and like the fingers are like there's 7 on one hand. So I think that, to me, the best way to resist a lot of the changes or threats that AI could have to at least the job that a lot of my values in like creativity and original thoughts is to keep a lot of that process coming from yourself and then use AI as a tool rather than like a co-writer, you know? So.
Yeah, you've been enthusiastic.
My name's Marco. Contrary to what I made you believe, I'm actually not from Mass. I'm right over the border of Connecticut, so you can boo me if you want. But I majored in data science, which even though it's a very technical field, there's a lot of creativity involved in trying to craft solutions. And one of the main reasons I enjoy your show is because you're very creative in conveying these otherwise, at least to me, very boring topics in something that's very digestible. And so I just wanted to ask what your creative process is through writing these scripts and how you make these videos.
How we make the videos is we start with a topic that passes the dinner table test, where we go out to get drinks with friends, and we'll like slip in the topic that we're interested in and see if other people get interested in it. We're working on an episode about ayahuasca right now, and that passes. And then once we have a topic, we research it a bunch, we read as much as we possibly can about it, have a big research packet, and find people that we want to talk to and interview. We have a big interview list. We reach out to all of those people, and then once we interview all of them, we take the transcripts of their interview and take out like the best parts from it, what we call the polls. Combine that with our research packet, and then we have the least funny script you could imagine. Like not a single joke in it. It's just facts and quotes. And one hiring requirement for our team is that we're all idiots. We're all very stupid people that really like stupid humor. And we take the script and we realize how bored we are reading it. And so we just throw in things that we think would be funny. And a lot of those times, I don't know if people in here like want to write for late night or want to write comedy. One great thing about YouTube is that there's no rules to it. So a lot of the funniest jokes we put in the video are like when we say like shebang or like a weird sound or something. So we read that together and we'll throw out funny lines. So it's kind of like we like decorate this very boring script with different things that we find funny, but we do actively try to resist writing like jokes because we think the show is funny because of this weird character and his voice and the way that he kind of sees things. That's where a lot of the best humor comes from, in my opinion. And that came through the process of writing. I think we've done like 27 videos now, and it's still changing. But the weirder, the better, for sure, which takes a lot of drafts sometimes. But that's usually where it comes from, is literally like what makes you and your friends laugh. So, yeah.
All right, we have time for just a few more questions. Thanks for the pictures, Kyle. Please make them as interesting as possible. Who has a really interesting question? Oh, that's pretty interesting. I'll get you next time. You put your hand down when asked for interesting questions.
Thank you so much. You said you were afraid of doing stand-up comedy in college. What made you overcome your fear? And also, Moo Deng and Chogani, pick your poison.
Oh, chill guy meme, he says.
Oh, chill guy memes. Oh. Unfortunately, I do know what both of those things are. I pick Moodang. I like Moodang a lot. It's shiny. Anyway, yeah. I get a lot of hate from this corner over here. Got it. What was your first question? I got lost in the Moodang thing. Right. Overcoming fear of stand-up. I still have it. You get used to the feeling, at least in stand-up, of bombing, which is good. You learn after a while that it's information. Like, oh, that wasn't funny. I wonder why. And then you go back because once you have written a few funny jokes, you then realize, like, you can then kind of compare it to other things rather than being like completely lost. Like when you go out and you bomb for your first time, you're like, I thought that was my best stuff. Damn, they really hated that. But then once you have good things, you can kind of compare it, right? I mean, brother, I bombed quite a bit. I still do sometimes. So it's not like that ever goes away. You still get nervous before a show. And I still get nervous before some open mics too, especially when I'm trying new stuff. But you do get used to the anxiety of it. And you kind of know that when you feel anxiety, that means you're getting out of your comfort zone, which like long-term everybody says is like good for you. And it is. So it's just repetition and realizing that like you as a person are much stronger than the fear that's trying to tell you not to go do that, you know?
Sweet. All the way up here. Right there. 4 minutes over. Okay. We got to show off this QR code for the rest of the intro.
Hey Dan. So my question is very simple. I probably have the lowest IQ in this room. So my question is, what are your thoughts on LinkedIn?
Actually, the best question I've gotten this entire weekend. LinkedIn. Man. Raise your hand if you're on LinkedIn. Yeah, we're a core, baby.
Accept my connection request.
You sent me a connection request?
Yeah,
I don't, look man, I don't need more connections on LinkedIn, dude. I don't know, I've taken advantage of it because I've posted comedy shows on LinkedIn. I have no shame, right? Other comedians have been like, should I post? I'm like, no. I do think it's weird. I think it's a weird place. I don't think it's changed since we made a video about it being weird. I think the fact, and I don't like how it feels very, like when I'm on LinkedIn, I feel like we all know what's happening, right? We see people posting like, I am over to be named a Forbes 30 under, and we're all like, you know, you typed this and you thought you're being genuine right now, which is kind of like any networking event, right? You're talking to somebody, you're like, we're both people, why are we, you know, being all weird about it? And I think that LinkedIn kind of upholds that, which is why I think it's the funniest platform on social media. Because I like being a little like, you know, guy in there who's just posting like, you know, me taking selfies with rich guys' Cybertrucks and stuff. So I personally like taking advantage of it because I work in business media and I do funny things sometimes. So yeah, those are my thoughts on LinkedIn. Thank you for asking the question.
One more, just one more. Last question of the day.
Yeah, so thank you so much for your time. Yeah, I'm happy you met at the gate. My name is Marcus. I really enjoy the interview segments of each of your videos. My question is, you know, you meet a ton of weird people. I mean, like, you know, consultants, quants, people at IB, senators. How do you personally sort of make those interview questions sort of interesting? How do you build rapport with such a diverse array of people? And I don't know if you could say this because you're on the record, but like, what was your weirdest interview? Or like the most memorable interaction?
Turn off the camera, country.
The interviews we do are actually fairly serious because they're all pre-recorded. I am looking at them like that though. Like in the interview, I do think I'm like, the entire time. And they don't ever acknowledge it too. They're just like, fucking weird guy, sure. That's my favorite part of the job, is meeting all these weird people. I was talking to a dude who's currently in Kenya doing research on ayahuasca. That was a trip. I also spoke to a guy who's half Canadian, half Costa Rican, who wrote a song about ayahuasca and sang it for me over Zoom. So that's fun. But we do approach a lot of them because I think a lot of people, when we reach out for an interview, most of the time they have no idea who we are, which is fair. And then we show them the channel and they go, I am not doing this. But then what we try to tell them is that, like, no, we actually like hope to get information out of these interviews. And so we keep it fairly serious when we're talking to them. But my favorite interview that I have done, I'll tell you my favorite interview experience, and that was going to the Capitol building because I was in full trench coat. They did not know the senators did not know that they were doing an interview with me. Their assistants all knew, and what the senators were told was that you have a news interview today. In fact, at one point, we interviewed John Ossoff, senator from Georgia, and we were sitting in the rotunda. When you go to the Capitol building, I don't know if you guys have ever been to the Capitol building, but if you go there in the rotunda, that's where all the press sets up. It's a public building, so anybody can go in, right? And the rotunda is where all the press like sets up there, like fancy lights and everything. And when we have a very lo-fi operation, it is literally Henry standing there with the camera, and then me being like, should senators be allowed to trade stocks? And like just yelling, right? So it's CNBC, fancy light setup, CNN, fancy light setup, and then me standing there, trenched up, with Henry holding a camera, just waiting, right? John Ossoff walks out of the meeting, and he approaches all three of us. CNN gets ready, CNBC gets ready. They're like, Senator Ossoff, thank you so much for coming. He skirts both of them and shakes my hand, and they're like, who the fuck is that? So that was the most fun. And then other times, like when we interviewed Representative Abigail Spanberger, we were waiting outside of her office. We opened the door, and she said, well, guess we're doing it. So that was a lot of fun because they had no idea what it was, and a lot of them were very cool about it. So that was probably my favorite experience because you walk into the Capitol building wearing the trench coat, and they're like, we need backup for whatever's about to happen right now. So that was probably my favorite experience. Yeah.
Speaking of favorite experiences, that wraps it up for today. Thank you so much. So we have the room for like a little more. I'm not sure if you'd like to stay or leave for pictures, but yeah, here's the QR code so Morning Brew does hire interns in the summer. This is for good stuff. This is for product management. Yeah, exclusive resume drop. Morning Brew will look at all of these when they're hiring interns again. So scan, going once, going twice. Jeez, is this what all of you guys are here for? Okay, great, awesome. Thanks so much, Dan. Thanks for coming.